Warning: this video contains scenes of explicit logic and intense information, not suitable for stupid people. Watch at your own risk.
In this episode, CA from Portugal. A question with a sensitive nature, not suitable for children under 75.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Episode 3 now. We're still continuing our questions with the CA from Portugal. The following question, and it's the last question in her long list of questions, is a little bit with a sensitive nature. So let's get to it. I hear in some places female circumcision is still very common among Muslims in order to extinguish their flame. However, I've also heard Muslims say what God gives must not be cut away, and that sex between a married man and woman should be enjoyed by both. That was why Allah created it. I've also heard of husbands cutting noses and dropping acids on their wives in order to keep other men away from them. So is this still common or not? Okay, I will start with the nose cutting, acid dropping thing, and it's the first time I ever hear about that. So never heard of that before. Now let's get for the first question, the one with the sensitive nature. Actually, I might go into a little bit detail with that question, and the reason why I might go into a little bit detail is because this is one of the topics that manipulated in order to, in the media, to give bad image for Islam as an abuser for women and so on. First of all, before I get into this, I'd like to clear something that you said here. I've heard that some people said it need to be done in order to extinguish their flame, number one. Number two, you said, however, I heard other Muslims saying what God gives must not be cut, so on. What you mentioned here are opinions. Some people said that, other people said this. As we mentioned before many times, Islam means submission. Worship means obedience. To who? To God. So whatever people say doesn't concern me as a Muslim. It's not Islam. Islam is, or the orders of God are what God says and what the Prophet says. So whatever people say, let people say whatever they want. That doesn't mean it's Islam. I just wanted to clear that point. Now let's see what God says about that topic. What does Islam say about that? Okay, first of all, I already had some knowledge about that, but I didn't want to give an answer without making sure. After all, it's not a topic that concerns me. I'm a guy. So I did a little research, I Googled around, I checked with some scholars in order to make sure that I'm giving you a correct answer. Circumcision is a must for men, or at least most of scholars see that the teachings of a prophet have had cleared that it's a must on men. The majority of scholars see it's a must for men, but for women it's a different issue. Now, circumcision for women, it was practiced at the time of the Prophet, and even before that. At the time before the Prophet, the Arabs used to do that, and after the Prophet they used to do that. The Prophet didn't ban it. At the same time, his teachings about that didn't say it's a must. I'll give you an example. There is a narration from a woman called Atiyah. Atiyah, she was a woman in the city that she used to do circumcision for women, for little girls. The Prophet one day saw her and he asked her, "Oh Atiyah, do you still do what you're doing, circumcision for girls?" She said, "Yes, Prophet of God, unless it's forbidden and you ordered me to stop, I would stop." He told her, "No, not that, but get closer to me, let me teach you something." She got closer to him and he told her, "If you do, la tanhiki," which means don't exaggerate. don't remove a lot. Why? He continues saying, فَإِنَّهُ أَحْظَى لِلْمَرْأَةِ وَأَرْغَبُ لِلزَّوْجِ, which means it's better for the woman and make her husband desire her more. Okay, in this hadith, as you can see, he authorized that, but at the same time he warned, if you do, make sure you will not affect her in the future. It's supposed to keep her enjoyable. By the way, many of the hadith, the teachings of the Prophet concerning this topic, circumcision for women, many of these hadith were found to be weak. What does weak mean? There is a weak possibility that the Prophet said it. How do you know it's weak? It's a long story, actually it's a long topic. Maybe one day we'll discuss it, but it's really long topic. Okay, to make a long story short, the majority of Muslim scholars, they found that circumcision for women, either it's a favored ethical thing in case it's needed in order to keep things under control, not to have excessive lust, and other found it's preferred for women in case it's needed. Probably the Arabs used to do that because the nature of the desert, the high heat, maybe caused people to have excessive lust. Actually, people in the desert and in our region, usually they hit puberty really fast. They become adults really fast. Maybe the type of the body, maybe the heat, I don't know. But for example, Sayyidah Aisha, Lady Aisha, the Prophet's wife, she was, before she married the Prophet, she was engaged for a man called Al-Mut'im ibn Jubayr. He asked for her hand when she was still 6 years old. She married the Prophet, she consummated the marriage with the Prophet when she was 9 years old. Another woman, her name Safiya bint Huyay ibn Akhtab, she married the Prophet, peace be upon him, when she was 16 or 18. That's not the point. The point is, her marriage from the Prophet was her third marriage. She already married 2 times before. Well, by the way, Safiya wasn't an Arabic woman, she was a Jewish woman. I don't remember another companion, a follower of the Prophet, we call him companion, Sahaba. I don't remember his name, maybe Abu Ubaidah Amr ibn Jarrah, I'm not sure. But anyhow, that's not the point, what was his name. He had his first son when he was 10 years old. So people at that time, they used to hit puberty fast, they used to get married fast. Probably they had a very strong lust. This is why maybe they used to do that. Anyhow, while I was Googling around, I found a video clip for Sheikh Muhammad Hassan, Egyptian scholar. He was discussing that point. He said the very same things that I told you right now. And at the end he said, leave this matter for a woman doctor to decide whether it's needed or not. Let her examine the girl when she's young to see if this part is over the normal, over natural side that might cause her excessive lust in the future, that might annoy her, then do the circumcision. If not, don't do it. I found another video clip for Wajdi Ghanem, another Egyptian scholar. I like this guy. He said the very same things, and at the end he said, if this to be done under the condition that it will not affect her negatively with her husband in the future. And I found also a clip for Salman al-Ouda, a Saudi scholar. I love this guy a lot, I respect him a lot, very intelligent, very wise man. Also he discussed the same thing. It was a TV show and somebody called from Germany and asked that question. And he said the very same things that I told you. It's preferred if needed, under the condition it will not harm her or affect her in a negative way in the future. It's worth to mention that, okay, this is what Islam, or what the teaching of the Prophet, so this is the Islamic part. It's worth to mention that while I was Googling around, I found a video clip on YouTube, an interview with a doctor, a gynecologist. Sadly, it wasn't the entire interview, it was only, just a few minutes that he was talking about that topic. So I couldn't know what's the name of that doctor, what's the name of that show, or where it was aired. So I'm just mentioning that as, just something worth mentioning, but I cannot verify if this information is true or not. This doctor was discussing this. He said if it's done by, just trimming a little bit out from, that part, It's like removing the tip of a fingernail. In this case, if it's done at a young age, when the woman reached adult, she becomes an adult, that will encourage the body to generate the neural ends in the inside part of the body more than the outside. So she will be more sensitive from the inside rather than the outside, which make her relationship with her husband better. And you know what? What? Ask your mom. My mom is dead. Anyhow, leaving it as it is will encourage the body to have more neural ends at the outside part, which make her more sensitive from the outside. Something might be annoying every time she moves, with every friction that happens. Again, I'm not a doctor. This is so you think you know Islam, not so you think you know anatomy. But I thought it's worth mentioning. If you want to check it more, ask a doctor. I just, thought it was something worth mentioning. Okay, all this is Islamic and a little bit medical. Put it on the side. Now, what about reality? What about habits? Does people do that or not? Again, we're moving towards sociology. Especially in such a topic, I have no idea. But yes, probably many people might practice that in a wrong way. One of my teachers in Jordan, he went to have his master's degree in Islamic science in Sudan. He once told us about some tribes there that they practice something they call the pharaoh circumcision for girls, which is basically they stitch the whole area when she's young, something very harmful. And he told us it's a disaster when you get married. The wedding night is a disaster. This is something very wrong. One time also I read in a magazine that a guy from Egypt, he lived in certain villages, he was consulting a doctor. He said, I'm getting married, and sadly in our village we do this circumcision, they're removing the whole thing. And he was very worried about his relationship with his wife, and he was afraid that he will not be able to please her, so he was asking for an advice. So obviously, yes, some people might do this in the wrong way for whatever reason, but why and how, and a lot of ignorance about Islamic rules, a lot of ignorance in rights, a lot of ignorance in many things. So it's not only this problem, it's just this thing is a side effect of a bigger problems that many societies, many poor society, many ignorant society that they are facing. So in short, to summarize the whole thing, it is preferred if it's needed. If not, don't do it. And under the condition, it will not affect her in a negative way in the future. So only if you need to control, if you suspect excessive sensitivity that will make her life a little bit annoying, or excessive lust that she needs to control, then yes, do it. Dude, to control and to why even to control? Why not leave things as it is? Why not to go, why not to have excessive lust? Why not to be crazy? Why? Very good question. Again, that brings me back to the 4 years old mentality. But as a man, I cannot speak on the behalf of women since I'm not a woman, but I will talk from my experience as a man. You remember college days? College? Oh, dude, best days of my life. Woohoo! Yeah. You got a lot of education, you managed to expand your horizon, you learned a lot of things. Are you a nerd? Dude, parties, drinks, checks. Yeah. I suspected that. Okay, here's the thing. Remember when we said that committing adultery is the third worst crime ever? So imagine yourself in that environment, raging hormones everywhere, everything loose, no parents to watch you whatsoever. Actually, I don't need to tell you, you know that better than me, better than I'll ever imagine. So imagine that environment, the loose environment, at least loose for me, and a person in the middle of this environment who doesn't want to do any of these things. Can you tell me how he will feel for the 5 years that he will live there? Ooh, that's bad. Exactly, really not good. So you're looking from a completely different perspectives. For me, I don't want to have any relationship outside marriage. So in order to be able to keep myself only for my wife, I cannot do that if I put myself in the middle of an environment that will trigger my emotions every millisecond. It will be a pure torture. For example, when I was in Malawi and Gambia, I worked in Africa. My supervisor was a Sudanese professor. He had his degree, his master's degree and his PhD degree from France in civil engineering. He told me once that what was happening in the dorms and in the living quarters where people sleep, the students sleep, was, well, I can't say enough what the things that he told me. Pure dirty thing. It's like a whorehouse. Forgive me for that word. He told me he couldn't tolerate that thing. Immediately he moved himself from the dorm and he went and rented an apartment outside of the university and lived alone. Is he stupid? No, he's not a nutcase, but he have priority things in his life, and getting his degree and not committing adultery are one of these priorities. So what he did served his purpose. So for a person, for whatever reason, he wants to keep control over his behavior, he needs to keep control over the things that will trigger his needs and his emotion and his lust. This is why it is really difficult and really agonizing for a person like this to put him in a loose environment like that with a lot of triggers. My experience at university, although we don't have the stupid things that, yeah, I call it stupid. You have a problem with that? True, we don't have these things, but still it was very painful time, very stressful time for me at university because of all these ladies who, actually I don't know, do they think at all or not, wearing extremely tight jeans and extremely stretches and tight shirts. It was really agonizing time for me. And not only for me, for many people. At that time at university, I started to understand something that I didn't realize before. I used to think that hijab, when a woman wears hijab, it's for her own protection from the eyes of dirty men, and you know, that thing. But when I got in university, when I got in this mixed environment with many crazy women, I started to realize something else. Hijab is also a protection for me. It's a mercy for me. At that time, I had a whole new level of respect for a woman who's wearing hijab, who's wearing veil. Because to tell you the truth, she mercied me, period. I really respect her at that. Okay, this is me as a man. I think the same thing applies on a woman, in general at least. If a woman wants to put a control over her sexual behavior or sexual activities, she needs to put a control over the things that will trigger that. And that might be one of the things. If every time she moves or sit down or get up or walk or ride a bike, something will, you know what, do you know how annoying for her it will be? Okay, in loose societies they don't care. They have things to do, but for us, we have a code of behavior. In this case, yes, circumcision might be a wise idea. I remember, and I will finish with this, I remember one day I was, I don't know, I was in a clinic, in a dentist, something, anyhow I was in the waiting hall waiting for my turn, I don't remember for what, and you know, I grabbed a magazine and started flipping around, and I found an article also, again, about the same thing, the same topic. And in this article, there was a gynecologist man. He was talking about, giving his opinion about this topic, and he said one time a young lady came to his clinic and she asked for circumcision. Why? She said that she's suffering a lot during her life. It turned out that she suffered from excessive, she was over normal case. Actually, the doctor was surprised when he examined her that she actually already had circumcision before when she was young, but for her it wasn't enough. She was suffering a lot from that. Okay, she's a special case, but this is an example. She voluntarily chose that because it's causing her problems in her life. So, completely different concepts, and again, the media shows something completely different. I hope not much people will be angry with me about this topic. Anyhow, this concludes our episode for today. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that you found this episode informative and useful. Hope to see you in next episode. This is Ziad signing out. Have a nice day. Be safe. Salam. Peace.